brief overview of the different types of visas for registered nurses.
Okay. So when I started out, there was something called an H-1 visa that nurses could get. It's limited for the last, for many years now. They call them H-1B visas. H-1B visas are only for people who have at least, whose jobs require at least a bachelor's degree in what they do. So since American healthcare providers usually will hire Americans with 2-year degrees for nursing jobs, even if you have a bachelor's degree in your country, you can't get an H-1B for doing those same type of jobs that a 2-year nursing degree will handle. However, we have got H-1Bs for advanced care nurses, and those may be nurse practitioners. They may be CRNAs, which are certified registered nurse anesthetists, and also some nurse managers.
Okay. Because I think, in my experience, one of the questions that we often get is, can we do an H-1 visa for a regular staff nurse?
Right. And I mean, the answer is usually no. Some people have managed to squeak them in, but things are getting much harder these days, so I wouldn't even attempt to do that. I should mention, a lot of you probably know that those of you who do qualify for an H-1B, that there's a lottery every year, because the numbers for H-1Bs for most employers are fixed at 85,000 a year, and they get over double that as far as the number of petitions that they file. But there are certain employers that are not under that, and they can apply for nurses all year long, and they don't go into any kind of lottery. I'll just name there. You can watch our H-1B video online and see this in more detail, but I'll mention those 5 types of employers quickly. One is anybody who works at a university is not subject to the 85,000 cap. Also, nonprofit institutions that are either related to or affiliated with a university are not subject. And also nonprofit organizations, nonprofit research organizations, and government research organizations. None of those 5 types of employers have to go through the H-1B lottery, so they can apply for H-1Bs for nurses, physical therapists, whatever the particular professional job is, all through the year.
Okay. So it seems like there are some instances where the H-1 would be applicable, but for the regular staff nurse, it's really not going to be an option,
right.
Correct?
Right.
Okay.
Now, there is another type of visa that some people are going to qualify for and others are not. It's called a TN visa. TN stands for Trade NAFTA, and the NAFTA agreement is the North American Free Trade Agreement between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And over the last 10 years, as you've mentioned, it's been difficult for nurses to come to the U.S. So I know a lot of nurses from Philippines, India, Jamaica, all over the world who've gone to Canada as like their second choice. But it's been so many years that they're now Canadian citizens. Yeah. So if you're a nurse and you're licensed in Canada and you're a Canadian citizen, I mean, once you meet the requirements, Tanya is able to find a job for you, and we're able to get you a TN visa all in a matter of weeks. So much faster than getting green cards, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes.
Okay. So essentially, if we just sum up, there are basically 2 different visas that most nurses will come through on. It's either going to be a green card, right, or it's going to be a TN visa, correct?
That's exactly right.
So for those nurses that are going to come on the TN visa, from what I'm understanding you're saying, they have to be a Canadian citizen.
Canadian or Mexican.
But yes. Yeah, okay. So, and in my experience, we've been doing this for many, many years, and we've brought thousands of Canadian nurses through to the US. In that time, we have had some Mexican nurses, and their process, from what I understand, is a little different in that they have to go to like the embassy, so it's a little different from a TN perspective. But for the purposes of today, I think it's probably best for us to focus more on the Canadian side rather than Mexican, because they just are, they're going to be way more nurses coming from Canada on the TN visa.